Today we come to the writings of the prophet Habakkuk. His message follows on nicely from the prophecy of Nahum. I've heard multiple ways of pronouncing his name. I'm just going to run with the common English variety. But keep in mind, in Hebrew, they often pronounce our B as a V, Habakkuk. These 12 minor prophets are arranged more or less historically in the order God gave them their visions. Nahum gave his prophecy in the middle of the 7th century BC, predicting the fall of Nineveh and Assyria. Habakkuk was a prophet of Judah, the southern kingdom. He was contemporary with Jeremiah and Zephaniah. His focus is mainly on Babylon, the next great world power God used to judge the children of Israel. We can't be too precise with the dating of Habakkuk, but the feel we get as we read the prophecy, Babylon is very much in the ascendancy. Their threat to Judah, not yet fully realised, but imminent. Most likely, Habakkuk was written just before Judah commenced its 70 years of Babylonian captivity. We're not certain what the name Habakkuk means. Embracer is a frequently given possibility. There are some extra-biblical writings which say that Habakkuk was a Levite, which seems plausible given the psalm-like song recorded in the 3rd chapter. Habakkuk learned by questioning. Dr. McGee jokingly said he had a question mark for a brain. Habakkuk taught and prophesied by revealing his questions and giving God's replies. Let's read from Habakkuk 1:1. The burden, oracle, or prophecy which the prophet Habakkuk saw. Habakkuk saw this heavenly revelation. God gave him eyes to see this prophecy of Babylon. God has given prophetic insight to only a very tiny portion of the saints of God. I'm not in the hardline cessationist camp when it comes to the gifts of tongues or prophecy or healing, but I've definitely observed a lot of false prophets in Christian circles, and I'm not just talking about in charismatic circles either. I'm talking about the false prophets infesting conservative churches. Many pastors and preachers effectively claiming prophetic revelation. A common one is, God gave me this message to bring to you today. You're seriously going to blame God for that sloppy mess you call a sermon? Dozens of times I've heard the God gave me this message tripe, then listen to a rambling, boring, incoherent, sometimes even Bible-contradicting message. Hirelings and preachers, stop blaming God for your lame and boring, third-rate, incompetent teaching. Verse 2. O Lord, how long shall I cry, and you will not hear? Even cry out to you, violence, and you will not save. This is Habakkuk's first question. Variations to this question have been asked countless times. How can a good God allow so much evil? If there's a loving God, why does he allow so much injustice? The presence of evil in this world surely must confirm there is no good God. Why does God wait so long before judging the wicked, even allowing the wicked to prosper their whole lives? Where is the God who saves and delivers? Why doesn't God answer my prayers? And on the questions, even allegations against God, drip from the lips of accusing mouths. The more desperate our situation, the more urgent our pleas and questions become. An important lesson to be learned from Scripture: God has his reasons. We must learn to trust in his timing. Cry out to him for sure. Bring your questions to him, yes. There's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, learn to trust in him, especially through the tough times. Habakkuk sees the evil throughout Judah, and he wants to know when God's going to do something. Lord, please intervene to stop the violence and injustice and iniquity committed by the powerful of Judah against the weak. Verse 3. Why do you show me iniquity and cause me to see trouble? For plundering and violence are before me. There is strife and contention arises. Therefore the law is powerless, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, therefore perverse judgment proceeds. Habakkuk's first question, how long? His second question, why? When we confront trouble, we all want God to work in our time. And we want to know, why me, Lord? Whatever the trouble, we whine, why me, O Lord? When you look through the Acts narrative, Peter, Paul and others confront terrible hardships for serving Jesus. Beatings, imprisonment, trials and tribulations. They at times even rejoice in their sufferings, considering it a joy and privilege to suffer for Jesus. We need to take on a heavenly perspective, follow in the apostolic example and tradition. We need to have eternity in mind, trusting in the plans of Jesus. Sometimes we may never know the reason God allows us to go through some terrible experience. Sometimes we're simply suffering due to the terrible choices we made. Sometimes we suffer because this world is a wicked place. We don't suffer because God is unloving or uncaring or powerless. The wicked will receive their judgment and the righteous will receive their vindication. When you have eternity in mind, a few short years of strife are nothing. Habakkuk sees the evil amongst his people. The Mosaic law now having no effect. Lawlessness abounds. Verse 5, look among the nations and watch. Be utterly astounded, for I will work a work in your days, which you will not believe, though it were told you. For indeed I am raising up the Chaldeans, a bitter and hasty nation, which marches through the breadth of the earth, to possess dwelling places that are not theirs. God's answer to Habakkuk is stunning, even shocking, almost unbelievable. I'm going to do something. I'm going to send the Chaldeans to smash Judah. You think things are bad now, Habakkuk? They're about to get much worse. God was planning to strike the Judean iniquity with a Chaldean nuclear bomb. The iniquity of the kingdom of Judah is so bad that I'm raising up the Chaldeans with their capital at Babylon. So in the Bible, you'll find the terms Babylonians and Chaldeans used interchangeably. God is going to use this bitter and hasty nation, a nation full of idolatry, iniquity, and brutality, to judge Judah. For 70 years, Judah will be sent into Babylonian captivity to wrest the land of promise and free the promised land from the iniquity of the children of Jacob. This is very peculiar to wrap our minds around. God will sometimes use an even greater evil to judge and discipline a lesser evil. God will go to extraordinary means to discipline his children. God is a judge of both people and nations. Verse 7. They are terrible and dreadful. Their judgment and their dignity proceed from themselves. Their horses are swifter than leopards and more fierce than evening wolves. Their chargers charge ahead. Their cavalry comes from afar. They fly as the eagle that hastens to eat. When you look through the ancient great empires, each subsequent power became progressively swifter. Egypt, the first biblical superpower, was a kingdom who ruled northern Africa. Its kingdom grew and shrank through subsequent rulers for centuries, but the kingdom always centered at the Nile. Then along came Assyria. Its massive, swarming, lumbering army slowly marched across the known world, conquering, suppressing, and consuming as it expanded. The next empire to rise was Babylon, the rising power Habakkuk speaks of in this short prophecy. Compared to Assyria, Babylon was like a swift and roaming leopard and a flying eagle. Babylon outpaced and outmaneuvered the much slower, lumbering Assyria. Next to rise will be the Persians, swifter still. Then came the Greeks with Alexander's lightning blitzes. Verse 9. They all come for violence. Their faces are set like the east wind. They gather captives like sand. They scoff at kings, and princes are scorned by them. They deride every stronghold, for they heap up earthen mounds and seize it. Babylon was a violent kingdom. They conquered with shocking violence. There was no mercy with the Babylonians. Their faces being set like the east wind meant unrelenting, driving, unstoppable, thirst-quenching. The Babylonians quickly filled the void left by the destruction of Nineveh in 612 BC, and they achieved this by being brutal, ruthless, heartless killers, showing nothing but contempt for all surrounding cities, nations, and kingdoms. You either immediately bowed to all demands and tributes required by Babylon, regardless of how unreasonable they might be, or Babylon obliterated you. There was no option to negotiate, comply, or die. Habakkuk even describes Babylon's favoured method of defeating walled cities, earthen mounds, building earth ramps up to the top of city walls and marching their troops straight over the walls. Verse 11, then his mind changes, and he transgresses. He commits offence, ascribing this power to his God. The problem with Babylon, though they had some limited knowledge of the God of Abraham, God gave Babylon its power, position, and dominion, taking control after the harsh and cruel rule of Assyria. Babylon saw the injustice and affliction of Assyrian control and rebelled against it. But once Babylon gained total power, they changed their mind on the matter of power and control and cruelty. Their mind changed, just like the changing of the wind. What the Babylonians once saw as the injustices of Assyrian rule, they were soon committing offences of equal or similar depravity and evil. God sent Babylon as judgment to destroy Assyria for overstepping the mark and misusing their power. Using Zechariah 6 language, Babylon was the craftsman of Assyria. Babylon was also sent as judgment against Judah. God really used a sledgehammer to crack the tiny nut that was Judah. And Babylon will overstep the mark, just like Assyria, and misuse their power. And God will send Persia to judge Babylon, then Greece to judge Persia, then Rome to judge Greece, then Christ as the judge of all. Verse 12, are you not from everlasting, O Lord my God, my Holy One? We shall not die, O Lord. You have appointed them for judgment. O Rock, you have marked them for correction. Lord, I wanted you to sort out the sinfulness of my people, not destroy my people completely. Habakkuk now reverts to his questioning nature. But these questions are mostly statements wrapped in question marks. The Hebrew prophet knows God is from everlasting. God exists outside of time. He's timeless. He's unbound by time, unlike Habakkuk and Judah. You are the righteous and holy God. You've made eternal promises to us, your chosen people. Lord, we know that you won't wipe us out, as the Assyrians have wiped out so many kingdoms before it. Habakkuk is pleading to Judah's rock and foundation. Lord, remember Jacob. Remember Abraham. Surely you intend to limit the devastation Babylon will pour upon Judah. You see, Jeremiah was a contemporary of Habakkuk. He'd also predicted the Babylonian decimation of Judah. Habakkuk is truly horrified to hear firsthand from God directly, Babylon is coming to judge Judah. Verse 13, you are of pure eyes then to behold evil, and cannot look on wickedness. Why do you look on those who deal treacherously, and hold your tongue when the wicked devours a person more righteous than he? Lord, you know how evil the Babylonians are. You can't look upon their wickedness without judging them also. How can you stand back and allow this evil people to so devastate the chosen of God? Sadly, this is a message both Israel and we followers of Christ have to learn over and over again. God will use evil men and evil nations as judging tools against his rebellious people. God will also ultimately judge those evil men and nations when they inevitably overstep the mark. My advice: when tragedy strikes in your life, examine yourself closely to see if there could be iniquity in your life that God is judging and correcting you of. Please don't misread what I'm saying. Not all tragedy is a consequence of the judging hand of God. And don't you specialise in pointing the finger at other people enduring hard times. Verse 14. Why do you make men like fish of the sea, like creeping things that have no ruler over them? They take up all of them with a hook. They catch them in their net and gather them in their drag net. Therefore they rejoice and are glad. And the questions continue to fly from the lips of the man with a question mark for a brain. Why, why? Now likening himself and his people to helpless fish. If they manage to escape the hooks, they're caught by small hand nets. If they escape the hand nets, then surely they can't escape the massive drag nets that scoop up the fish across the bottom of the oceans. Sadly, this is the plight of the common man and woman across all ages. We're just resources to be exploited by the rich and powerful. Rather than complain about the way the world works, we need to focus on getting about the work of Jesus. Salvation isn't to be found in a political party, conservative, progressive, left, right. Don't go looking to religion. Don't look to business or career or materialism. Rather, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Stop looking earthward. Look up. Verse 16. Therefore they sacrifice to their net and burn incense to their drag net, because by them their share is sumptuous, and their food plentiful. Shall they therefore empty their net and continue to slay nations without pity? Habakkuk is quite a character. He's telling God what the Babylonian fishermen will end up doing. God, you know these guys will simply end up worshipping their nets. They'll praise their false gods for their military conquests. The kings will even demand all their subjects bow down and worship them. Habakkuk combines this plea to God in the form of another question. God, I know I'm not teaching you anything, and you know this is what the Babylonians will do. Habakkuk is wanting a final confirmation from God. Are you really sure this is what must happen, Lord? Is there another way? Sadly for Judah, there was no other way. The iniquities of Judah had piled up before God. Now was their time for judgment. And we'll finish off here, picking up next time in chapter 2. Until then, may God richly bless you all.